So I'm your current AVP for IT skills training, and today we'll be having a Git workshop hosted by MISA eServices. So the structure will be I'll be starting with the PowerPoint so that you can have a good theoretical and fundamental knowledge of how Git works, and then we'll proceed to actually coding with Git. So working with a terminal and like doing all this Git commands so that we can get things up and running for beginners at least. So we'll be starting off with the PowerPoint. So I'll just be removing my face cam for now. And there you go. So, Git workshop. Yay! A summary of the topics that we're gonna talk about in this PowerPoint. What exactly is Git and GitHub? Why do we need to use Git? And a summary of the Git commands. So I'll be talking about what is Git exactly. So basically, it's a version control system. What exactly does that mean? It basically helps us track changes in your code. So like who made the changes, when it was changed, or and why it was changed exactly. If you're familiar with Google Docs, there's like a feature there with like a history log. So anytime you made changes and you feel like, oh, I made a mistake, or I want to go back to a previous version of this doc, I can just revert back to a previous file, like a previous instance of that file. So what Git does, it's basically the same thing. So it provides a history log to revert back to a previous snapshot of your code. So if ever you made a mistake or you feel like the feature you implemented was not good, or your boss tells you, okay, I want it to be back the way it is again, Git pretty much does that for you. Basically, there's Git and there's GitHub. Git is basically like a local repository. So that's where you store all the instances of your code. And GitHub is basically when you're developing with like a lot of people, and then you just want to have one repository for everyone to access. We'll discuss more on that later. So why use Git? It's the popular version control system. So any project or internship or job you go to, it's the version control system that most likely they're using. It's helpful when working in teams. So for example, without Git, for example, I'm person A, and then I make a project. I use like Messenger or like email to pass it to person B. But person C didn't realize that there were changes already. So what happens is person C ends up making changes in an older version of that code, which is not what we want because it's gonna create a lot of chaos. So with Git, you just have a center point, like a container where you can just add your code there, and then everyone else gets to see the changes you've made in that code. So it's really helpful. They all have the latest version of the code basically. No need to make a lot of unnecessary backup files. So like the natural instinct of a beginner developer is to like make a lot of backup files. So backup one folder, backup two folder, then I paste my code there, then I paste my code there. And it gets really messy and it takes up a lot of space in your computer. So you don't really want that. So with Git, it actually fixes that a lot. So easily access old versions of your code in case your boss tells you to remove some of the features you've made. So as I said earlier, if a feature doesn't work out properly, you can just easily revert back without having to like spam undo or like start from scratch again. So it removes a lot of the hassle in your software development career. So think of a repository like a box. So this is what I said earlier. We create a repository where we can store all the checkpoints of our code. So repository, think of it like a box. Then in this scenario, for example, I'm making a Git logo. I know you don't code logos, but like it's just an example, okay? So the first commit, I made the logo like orangey red color, and then I place it in the box. And then my boss tells me, okay, maybe blue would be a bit better. So I would place the second commit. I would place it in the box. And then afterwards, for example, my teammate thinks green is better, so I place it in the box, and some other person thinks purple is better, and I place it in the box. So my code right now is basically like making the logo purple. But then my boss tells me, you know what? I like it orangey red color. So without Git, you're pretty much like dead because you have to like undo everything, all the changes. You like made 3 instances of commits. Like that's a lot of code after like adjusting from the first commit. But with Git, from the fourth commit, you can just need to run one line of code to go back to the first commit. No hassle, no danger whatsoever. So a commit is basically the checkpoint we said earlier, like your code at a specific period of time, basically, whether it's without the feature or without the error or whatever it is. You just want to go back to a previous instance of your code. So the git commands we'll be discussing, git init, that's used for making the container where we'll store our commits. Git status, it just checks like if we made changes, and Git will tell you, okay, maybe you need to commit this. Git add, that's for adding the files to the staging area for the files that we'll be committing. Git commit -m change. That's basically putting your files in the box. So committing your files. So for example, git commit -m, my annoying friend like made a bug, something like that. Then git log, that's basically giving you a log of your different commits. So for example here, okay, it will log you like, okay, your first commit, your second commit, your third commit, fourth commit, like that. And it also shows you who made the changes and why. That's what we said earlier. Then git checkout. So from the git log, you can see like unique IDs per commit. And you can just put the ID in the checkout in the branch name here. So git checkout the ID, and you'll eventually like revert back to that specific time of when that code was committed. So yun. Git reset, that's for like reverting back. Except what happens, what the difference with reset and checkout is reset, it deletes all the commits after that commit. So like for example, I'm at fourth commit, then I reset to second commit. So third commit and fourth commit will be deleted basically. But in checkout, you're just like checking it out. The third and fourth commit won't be deleted. Then we'll also be talking about branches. So git branch, git merge, git branch -d, and GitHub. So git push, git pull, and git clone. So it's a pretty long PowerPoint, and there's a lot of git commands, but we'll be discussing all of this later on using git itself and the terminal and VS Code and stuff. So let's just get started with coding. So first, I want you guys to install Git. So in order to install Git, you need to go to Git and then look at downloads. So once you go to downloads, there's actually links to like download depending on your operating system. So for example, I'm using Mac, so I would go to Mac. Then if you're on Windows, just click on Windows and just follow the procedure. So if you're on Windows, when you download, you'll just be getting like an exe file, and then you just have to keep pressing next, 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 until you have like Git installed in your PowerShell, or you have the Git Bash terminal. So it's up to you if you want to use the Git Bash terminal or if you want to use PowerShell with Git integrated into it. So it's a pretty straightforward process. For Mac, there's actually a lot of ways you can do it. What I did was I used Homebrew. So but you can also use the other installation methods. So for example, Homebrew. It's taking long. So basically what you do is you go to terminal. So terminal. And then you basically just copy this line of code and then paste it here, then press enter. And then once you have Homebrew, you just basically use this command, brew install git, and you'll have Git installed in no time. So I won't really dive deep into installing Git because you can actually do that in your own time. Then after that, we need to have Visual Studio Code. So this is the code editor I'll be using, but you can pretty much get away with any VS Code. But if you want to follow along, then I highly recommend using VS Code because I'm gonna be using a plugin called, oops, where's my VS Code? There you go. So I'm actually gonna be using a plugin called Live Server. So what Live Server does, it's basically from your HTML, for example, I can just right click and open the Live Server. So I don't really need to like go to the folder itself, and I don't like have to double click and wait for it to load. And every change that we make, it would like react to it. It's very reactive. So every time you make a change, it's automatically gonna implement that change in the browser. You'll see it later on. So what I'm gonna do now is let's get started. First, let's make a folder in our desktop. Let's just call it, let's see, my Git project. There you go. And then we go to VS Code. So open this. Oops. There you go. My Git project. And then what I want you to do is, you don't really need to have a understanding on how HTML and CSS works, but we'll be using HTML and CSS for this project, but it's very basic, so you don't have to really understand anything. So let's make an index.html file, a styles.css file, and then since VS Code has Emmet pre-installed, so you can just like use exclamation point and it will automatically give you the HTML boilerplate. So before that, let's just make some adjustments. So let's make the title my first commit. And then, I don't know, let's just put a header. This is my first commit. Exclamation point. Yay! Sorry. Then we're just gonna link our CSS. So link. Just type link and then press enter. Then styles.css in the href. So there you go. That's basically the file that we're gonna be using for showing you guys how to use Git. So now let's actually get started with the real Git stuff. So actually, I won't be using the main terminal. I'll just use the terminal here. New terminal. There you go. And there. If you press if you press pwd. So I'm actually in the my Git project directory. So yun. So what we want to do first is we want to initialize Git inside this directory. So as I said earlier, we need to use Git init. So what it does is it creates that box or container where we can store all our commits. So Git init. So it says here, initialize empty Git repository and blah, 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 this directory, basically. So that's basically how you have Git in your project. So it's really that easy. So before everything, we need to add our name and email to Git. So how are we going to do that? So we need to use git config -- global user dot name, then the name you want. So for example, let me move my face cam for now. Renzo Tan. There. Then we need to add our email also. So git config -- global user dot email. Then I don't know, I love Git at mail.com, whatever. And that's pretty much how you add your name and email in Git. So you'll just be doing this once, so you don't really need to memorize it. That's why I have a cheat sheet right here. But so it's not really that important to memorize. You'll just be doing this like starting with Git. So you never have to do this again unless you have to change your name and your email. So next, now that we have this, so for example, you want to commit your index.html and your styles.css file. So how are you gonna do that? Because we want to store this instance of your code to the container or the repository that we created earlier using Git init, so that anytime we make a change in your code and we mess up for some reason, we can always revert back to this code instance. So for you to do that, we have to use git add and what you want to add. So here we have an index.html and a styles.css. So maybe we want to add the index.html. So add index.html. And then if you want to check if it's been added successfully, we use git status. There you go. So changes to be committed. New file. Index.html. On track files. Styles.css. So we also want to add styles.css. So we can just use git add styles.css. It's that easy. So But there's another way. If you want to just, for example, I have another like CSS file here, like another style .css, and then we also link that, for example, and you do a git status. So there's two now. But the hassle part of doing it one by one is if you have a lot of code, you don't want to just be like manually doing each one. So the easier way would be to use git add period. Then you use git status again to check. There you go. So what git add does is it puts your files into a staging area. So that's basically like the files that you'll be using to commit. So it's basically just standing there like waiting for like themselves to be committed. So the files are just like waiting. So if you're familiar with Django, for it's something like make migrations and migrate, something like that. But let's not dive into that. So now that we added the files we wanted to commit, the next thing to do is to actually commit them. So what added does is it just prepares them, but commit is actually putting them in the container. So for us to put it, for us to like actually commit the files, we need to use git commit -m, and then let's put double quotations, and then we have to say why we wanted to add them. So for example, in this scenario, it's just like our first commit. There you go. So our first commit, 3 files change, 13 insertions plus. Insertions is basically how many lines of code there is. So for example, there's 13 here, there's I don't know there. So that's how many lines of code there is. Because in here, in the other files, there's 0 lines of code, but here there's 13 basically. So and there's 3 files changed. So we have the another styles.css, index.html, and styles.css. So now that we have that done, for example, I make a change. So my second commit. This is a new, let's make a paragraph here. This is a new paragraph. And then let's add like another this paragraph is a new feature. Yay. So let's see how it looks like now. Right click, open live server. This is my first commit. Yay. This is a new paragraph. This paragraph is a new feature. Yay. So now that we made our changes, we want to do the same thing as earlier. So what did we do earlier? So first, we can check git status. It says here, modified, index.html. So what git status does is it checks if you modify the file. And it kind of tells you, okay, you modify this file. Do you want to commit it? Do you want to put it in that container in your repository? So what you do, git, if you want to actually add it. But if you don't want to add it, then don't add it. Git add. So you use git add in index.html. Or you can use git dot if you want. You don't need to type a lot, so git add. And then git status again to check again. So it says here, changes to be committed. And I forgot to mention also earlier, there's actually a way to remove your file from the staging area. So what you use is git, Okay, so what you use is git restore. You don't really need to memorize this because it literally just says it right here. Git restore -- change file. Wait, let's make this bigger so you guys can see. There. Git restore -- change staged. Sorry. Git restore -- staged. Then the file. So index.html. So if you do git status, you can see modified index.html, but it's not staged for commit. So I just showed you an example how to remove that file from the staging area or the place where you use git add and gets placed there. So we want to actually commit this, so we can just go back to adding it, because that was just for example on how to remove it. So once we actually add it, we want to commit it. Commit -m added new paragraphs. There. So one file changed, 3 insertions, one deletion, because we deleted a line. So actually we didn't delete a line. So we actually replaced the line. So what Git does is every time you replace the line, it's gonna delete it first, then add it. Gets. So yun. Okay, so now that we have this committed, we want to use git status. And there's pretty much nothing to commit because we didn't make any changes. So I'll teach you a new command called git log. And here, as I said earlier, git log, what it does is it lists you the various history points of your code, the various commits you've made. And for example, I realized, okay, maybe this doesn't actually look nice. Like you can do it manually to like go back to the beginning. So you can remove this. You can press my first commit, stuff like that. Okay, you're back from the beginning. But imagine if you added like 500 lines of code. It's gonna be too hassle for you. So there's actually an easier way to do it. You can use git checkout, and then you see this here. This is our first commit. This one here. This is our first commit. And we want to go back to that first commit we made because it says here, our first commit. That's what we placed in the double quotation marks, why we had to commit that. And remember that we registered our username and we registered our name and our email. It's actually placed here. So as I said earlier, you get to know who made the changes and why they made the change. So our first commit, and when it was changed, August 27, Thursday. So going back to like reverting back to that previous commit, we can just copy this here, this ID, place it here, and then enter. So look at the code. It basically magically like reverted back to the first instance of that code, to the first commit, I mean. So that's cool because you don't really need to like spam Control Z or like undo all your changes, start from the beginning and stuff. Now that we are at the first commit, we just want to go back to where we were last time. So git checkout master. So what master is basically the latest version. It's the main file that's gonna be run in your program, basically. In a nutshell, that's basically what it is. So now, I'll just demonstrate one last time how you do it. So my third commit. And then, we want to add new styles. So, we have an H1 and a paragraph. So for the H1, I want to make it color red. Then for the paragraphs, I want to make it color blue. There. So if we look at our index.html now, this is how it looks like. So it's color red now, it's color blue. And now that we have that, we just use git add period. Actually, let's use git status first to check what files need to be modified. Then we want to add all of those to the staging area using git add. Then git commit -m added new colors. 2 files changed, 8 insertions, 1 deletion. Then what we have to do now is to git log, and look at that, we have our third commit inside that repository or our container that we stored using git init earlier. So basically the latest commit will always be in the master branch. So pretty much you already have the basics on using Git. You know how to use git init. You know how to like add your email, your name, and then you know how to, every time you make a change, use git add to place it in the staging area, and use git commit from the staging area to place it inside the repository. And then if you want to check out on the various commits you made, you use git log. And if you want to go back to a previous commit, you use git check out. So for example, I'm from the third commit and I want to go back to the first commit. What I do is I use git check out, this ID over here, then paste. Look at the code, magic. This is my first commit, yay, my first commit. Styles, nothing, because in the first commit we never had styles anyway. So that's pretty much the power of Git. It lets you provide like various commits, checkpoints of your code, and every time you mess up something, you can always revert back to that previous instance. Okay, so now that we have that out of the way, let's use a new command called git reset. So what git reset does is it goes back to a previous commit, but all the commits after that, it's gone. It's deleted. So, for example, I'm at the fourth commit. What commit am I? Let's check. Git log. Oh, sorry. I'm in the first commit. So, let's go back to the latest. So, git checkout master. Okay, so I'm at the latest commit. I'm at the latest version of the code. And, for example, I want to go back to the first commit, but I want to like start from the first commit, then delete the second, third, and fourth. Like, I don't want them anymore. I just want to completely go back to the first commit. So what I do is I do git reset. Wait, let's use git log first. Then git reset whatever this code is. So this is our first commit. So what you see here is use let's just clear this a bit. Once you use git log, the first commit is already the master. So basically your second, third, and fourth, and whatever latest commit is, it's all gone. But if you check our code here, it's still in the third commit. Why? Because what Git does is, if you reset to a previous commit and all your other commits are gone, it's gonna leave your code here just in case like you made the wrong decision. Like, okay, I deleted the second, third commit, but I realized, okay, there's a feature in the third commit that I actually wanted. So if you mess up for some reason, you can just git add dot, then use git commit dash m, then reason why. But for this example, you don't really want that. So we just want to completely go back to the first commit. So git git reset to this part. And if you don't want the code to like stay in the third commit, you can just do -- hard. There. So if you see here, our code is now back at the first commit, and the trace of any other commit is basically gone. So that's how reset works. Okay, so what did we learn so far? So we used git init. Okay, we will make a repository for storing my commits. Then git status, it checks if there are changed files and that needs to be committed. We use git add to add them to the staging area in preparation for them to be committed. We use git commit -m, then double quotation then change. So this is basically adding the files in the staging area and commit them into the repository. Then we use git log. It just shows you a history log of all your different commits, and as we can see there, it's like your name, when it was committed, and why. So like my first commit, my third commit, created a new feature, something like that. And they all have a unique ID for you to check out. So when we git check out, we go back to a previous commit in case like you added like a mistake in your feature, or like there's a big bug and you want to just go back to a previous checkpoint of your code. And then we also discuss git reset. Git reset is basically just git checkout, except all the when you reset to a previous commit, all the other commits after that will be gone. And then you can see your code stays in the same commit you were before. But if you wanna like just hard reset it, like you just wanna go back, no regrets, you can use dash dash hard after that also. So right now we'll be talking about branches. So what are branches? So branches are basically like features that you're not sure yet if you wanna add to your code, but you for some reason you kind of wanna write it down just in case it gets approved. So for example, I'm in a website, and then I want to add a button feature, and I'm working in a team, but I'm not sure yet personally if I want to add that button feature. So I have to ask all my developer teammates first. Okay, here's the button feature. Do you guys want to add it? Here's the button feature. Then once everyone approves it, that's when you can add the feature. So you can merge the branch into the master. You guys get it? So it's basically a feature that you're not sure you're gonna add yet in a nutshell. So we're gonna discuss that now. So let's go back to the same file where we last left off. Wait, so messy here. I get clear tuloy. Clear. So right, we reset back to the first commit. So here we are again. So what I want to do now is I want to create a new branch. How am I going to do that? Git branch, then the name of the branch. Let's name it branch 1. There. Now that we have our branch, now we have a new branch where we can work on. So for us to be in that branch, because currently I'm in the master, and I want to go to this branch. So what I want to do is git check out the branch 1. It says here switch to branch 1. So now here we can add all the features that we want to add that we're not sure yet if we're gonna add to the master branch. So for example, I add a new button here, like button click me, and that, yeah, I guess. And then you can just add a new color, I guess. So to h1, let's say color green. There you go. Now you want to add that feature into the branch 1. So it's the same process. So git status. There. We need to add files to the staging area. So git add again, period. So you can just add everything like sabay. Then git commit -m created a button feature. Boom. 2 files change, 4 insertions. Now that we have it committed into the branch. But the thing is, if you check out the master, like check out master, it's not there. The reason why is we didn't add that feature directly into the master branch. We just added it into a separate branch where we can merge into the master branch. And so for example, like, okay, after a long hard debate, like we just want the feature inside the master. We decided, okay, it's okay to add that feature. So first you go to the master branch, which is here. I'm already here in the master branch. And then I use git merge, then the branch name. So branch 1. Boom. So now the feature's in your master branch. And now that the feature's already in the master branch, you don't really need branch 1 unless for some reason you need it for like more additional features. But for in our scenario, we don't really need branch 1 anymore. So in order to delete a branch, you use git delete. Oh, okay. For you to delete a branch, you use git branch dash capital D and then the branch name. So branch 1. Deleted branch 1. So if you git check out branch 1, it's not there anymore. So there you go. What we did, we created a new branch using git branch, then the name, whatever. Then once we have that branch, we check out, git check out the branch name. Then once we check out the branch name, we can add our new features, add HTML, CSS, then git add, then commit. Then it's already committed in the branch. Now that we have that feature, we can choose to merge that feature into the master. After a long, hard delegation, okay, we want that feature pala. But if you don't want the feature, you just delete it. But in this case, we want the feature, so we use git merge. Okay, we check out to the master first, master, and then after you're in the master, you merge with the branch, and then once you merge, in case you don't need it, you use git branch dash capital D the branch name. So in a nutshell, that's how branches work. It's just basically a way for you to create features you're not sure if you're gonna add yet. But if you ever wanna like have that feature, you just merge it to the master using git merge. And then if you wanna delete that branch afterwards, you use git branch dash D then the file name. And that's pretty much how branches work. So what did we discuss so far? We discussed git init to create a repository status, add, commit, log, check out, and reset. And then we also discussed a bit on branches. So git branch, merge, and branch dash D. Branch to create a branch, merge to like merge the branch into the master, and git branch dash D, capital D supposedly, that's a typo there, to delete a branch. Now, we'll be discussing on GitHub. So what exactly is GitHub? So imagine you're working in a team and like you wanna have a center repository to manage your project. Because we've been discussing on how to use Git locally. But that's only good for like personal projects. But for example, you're working in a team. You don't want to like have one developer get like an older version of the file or not have like uh, a broken version, which is really gonna cause a lot of chaos if ever. So you want to make sure that everyone has the same like latest file that they can all work on, and then just clone it to like get it in from the center like remote repository. So enough of the talking, we'll just get straight into it. So what you want to do now is you want to go to your local browser, go to github.com, and if you don't have a GitHub yet, create an account. And once you already have an account, what you do is you're gonna be here in this homepage. You press plus, new repository, and then the name of your repository. Let's name it my Git workshop. Description, anything like I don't know. It's optional by the way, so I don't need to place this. I love Git. Then you can choose if you want it to be public or private. So I'm just gonna leave it at public, so people can see how much I love Git. And then you can add a README file, a git ignore, and etc. etc. But for now, let's just create it. So loading, 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 and there you go. So right now, like after looking at this, it might be a little gibberish kind of stuff, but we'll be discussing this. So we should go back to our file, our project, I mean. And as you can see here, in here, GitHub provides you two ways. One is creating a repository from scratch, and one is just adding an existing repository. So we already have an existing repository, which is the local one. So what we want to do is we want to just add it to GitHub in this repository. So for you to do that, we use git remote, then add, then you get this link they provide you, paste, then enter. And what that does is it's gonna add these files into the GitHub repository, which is my Git workshop. But the thing is, every time you're gonna add your files, every time you make commits and you wanna add it, like you wanna update the files in this remote repository, you would have to copy paste this link all the time. So git git add like the link master, git add the link, git pull the link master, something like that. But you don't wanna keep copy pasting the link every time you wanna add like update your files in this repository. So what you wanna do is instead of like providing the link itself, what you wanna do is provide an alias or like a nickname to that link. So Git already knows if you provide that name, you are referring to the link itself. So for you to do that, you just do git remote add, same thing. Then put like a name. The common convention is origin, then the link. So from now on, Git will know that origin means this link over here. So here, enter. And now, we just need to push the files. So for you to do that, you do git push origin master. Enter. So what git push does is it adds the files you made into the repository, all the changes you made, so that any other developer who's also working with you can just pull it from the repository. So we just need to refresh this. And there you go. So the files are now in the repository. So there's a way, for example, my file here. I'll move my face cam. This is my file here, my Git project. What if like, oh shoot, oh, it's gone. Like, you trashed it. Is there a way for you to get it back without having to get it back from the trash? So I'm in my terminal. Oops, there you go. And I wanna go to my desktop. I wanna add it to my desktop. So how am I gonna do that? There's a way using git clone. You're basically cloning whatever file is in the GitHub repository into your computer. So in my case, it's the desktop. So for you to do that, I have to use git clone. Then this link over here, copy it and paste. Cloning into my Git workshop. So this is gonna be inside my desktop. So as you can see, let me get this out for now. See this? My Git workshop. And we can just cd into it. By the way, if you're not familiar with the command line, let me know if you want to have a tutorial. So yun. cd is basically change my directory from the desktop into that folder. Tutorial, my Git workshop. So if I ls, see, my files are there again. So in my VS Code, I can just open it. Open my Git workshop. And see, all my files are still here. Yes. So let's say like I made a commit. I want to make a new commit. So wait, let's open a new terminal here. New terminal. Let's move this face cam. It's annoying. Let me just expand this. So let's make new stuff. New stuff. Then, I don't know. Let's just add color to it. Color red. And then, we want to git add. Then commit those changes. Added new text. Then, after we add it, we want to update the remote repository with the changes we made here. So for you to do that, we just use git push, then origin, the link, then master, because you want to push it to the master branch. And just wait. And there you go. So if you git log, you can actually see, if you git log, that we already made a commit. And we can actually see the previous commit that we made before. So if you're working with developers, if they made a commit, and then you have this file over here, if they make a commit, then add it to the remote repository, and then you get that file from the remote repository, you can actually see their commits. So it's gonna say author, like John Wick, date, Wednesday, reason why, I added a new feature. So it really, you really see like who made the changes, who made the new feature, who made this, who made that. So it's super useful actually. So Chrome. Here, refresh. And if you look at the styles, see, our H2 style is there. And our H2 text is here. So there, magic, magic, magic. So anyone else can just like get that file. Like for example, I have a different account or like some other guy's account. You can actually just get this file, and it's basically the updated version of that file. So it's super useful. Okay, so now that we have like the stuff that SpongeBob made, and we want to pull it into our own file. So right now, we just go to our file, and if you realize, you have the older version of that file, and we want to have the newer version that SpongeBob made. Sorry, this light is annoying. So in order to do that, we use git pull origin master. So remember, git push earlier was to place our commit changes into the remote repository in GitHub. But in order to get it, like some other developer like made changes also, then pushed it into the GitHub repository. But in order to get those changes that he made, we use pull. So pulling is from the repository to yours. Pushing is from yours to repository. So that's pretty much how it works. So if you press enter, boom. So you can see all the files that SpongeBob made. So styles, you can see cursive, and there you go. That's pretty much how you get the most updated version of your file after like other developers have made it. And if you look here, if I git log, you can see here, author, SpongeBob. He said, I like script. So pretty much all the changes that other developers made, you can actually see it in the log. So that's pretty cool because you can like commit to like previous logs in case like you want to revert back to something like some other developer like fucked up your code, and you don't want that feature anymore. So you pretty much just revert back to it if ever. So there, that's pretty much my workshop. I taught you how to push, pull, and clone, and that's pretty much the basics of GitHub. But there are more advanced stuff out there that more advanced developers usually use. So for now, I taught the basics just to keep things up and running. And thank you guys for joining my workshop. So for my next workshops, I'll be handling HTML, CSS, and maybe even JavaScript. So yun. Thank you.